All right, last little thing, feel free to take all the pictures you want. What I wanted to ask is that the logo is nice, bright, and center, and clear, so when you put it on Facebook and Instagram, we get a lot of free PR. How's that sound? All right, so what we're going to talk about on the tour today, we're going to go through some history of the winery. We're going to go through our production area, talk to you about some of the things you'll see back there. Put you through winemaking 101. You'll learn how to take a grape, turn it into something more fun. You decide to stop by Kroger on the way home and pick up some grapes, give it a shot. That's entirely up to you. And then we're going to end up right back here and talk about some of the things you're going to see in this room. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go this way. Please do watch your step. There are some puddles along the way. Don't let anybody slip and fall. So normally we're outside. I hope nobody minds that we're just inside for today. It was a little rainy, a little soggy, and frankly I have no idea if it's going to start raining again. So here's where we're going to start the tour. We're going to start with the homework. So Oliver Winery started in the 1960s with a man named Professor Oliver. He was a law professor at nearby Indiana University and an amateur winemaker in his spare time. He made wine in his basement and garage, largely from grapes that he purchased in Ohio. It's a great hobby to have if you're looking for one. Everybody likes that friend that shows up with an extra bottle or two. 1965, he was a visiting lecturer at Cornell University out in Ithaca, New York. And while he was out there, he spent a lot of time visiting the Finger Lakes region, which is New York's prime grape growing area. While he was out there visiting wineries, visiting vineyards, he looked out over a vineyard one night and said to himself, you know, I think I can do that. And so he came back here in 1966. He purchased a plot of land 5 miles west of here in Ellettsville, and he began growing his own grapes. So that's the origins of our vineyard. So now he's not having to buy his grapes, he's growing his grapes, his yield is increasing, he's making a lot more wine, so he's giving it away to friends and family. And they're giving it away to their friends and their family, and eventually, he's got so much wine that he can't drink it, his friends can't drink it, and their friends can't drink it. And he goes, gosh, people really like my wine, let's see if I can sell it. And he looked into it, and it was illegal. Due to no blue law in the books from Prohibition, it was illegal for a wine producer to sell wine directly to consumers. It had to go through a third-party wholesaler. They wanted you to buy it at the grocery store. But remember what I told you his day job was. He was a law professor. He wrote a new law. He wrote the Indiana Small Winery Act. This law allowed for the production of 100,000 gallons of wine a year, but more importantly, it allowed for the operation of a tasting room, so we could sell wine directly to consumers. This law passed the legislature in 1971. In 1972, we opened our doors. So we are the first and oldest winery in the state of Indiana. I personally think we cheated a little bit. We knew the law was coming, but we're the first. And in those days, we were a cinder block shack on the side of a 2-lane highway with a sign that said Oliver's Wine Here, which was a very unusual sign in southern Indiana in those days. People pull over and they say, what's up with the sign? We pull some wine out of a barrel for them, and everybody have a pretty good afternoon. In 1973, more people are hearing about our sign, so we expanded. We built our original tasting room, which is the small structure you guys passed on the left as you rounded the waterfall, as well as that cellar, which we'll talk more about at the end of the tour. Now, even though we expanded in 73, this was still very much the professor's hobby at that point. So he went out to teach, this time in California at UC Davis. Now, UC Davis and Cornell, by the way, share an interesting feature. They are the two main schools in the United States that study viticulture. That is the study of grape growing for wine production. I would doubt that that's a coincidence, but I really can't prove that suspicion. While he was out there in California, though, he did a lot of what he did when he was up in New York. He visited a lot of California wineries and a lot of California vineyards, and it sounds very nice to be a traveling law professor. I encourage you to get the gig if you can. And while he's out there visiting wineries, visiting vineyards, he came across a wine that he absolutely fell in love with called Camelot Mead. He liked it so much that he bought the rights to it. He brought it back here to southern Indiana. And by the end of the 1970s, we were producing about 30,000 gallons of Camelot Mead a year. We used to have big mead festivals out here, which is exactly what that sounds like for the 70s. A lot of bell-bottoms and tankards and mud wrestling and jousting, and the insurance folks don't want us to do it anymore. So, well, that kind of put us on the map. Unfortunately, by the end of the 1970s, a couple bad things happened. First off, we had a series of truly terrible winters that absolutely devastated our vineyards. Grapevines take a year or two to get up to production strength for winemaking, and if every year you're planting in the spring and every year they're dying in the winter, and you do that a couple times, you cannot grow anything. You can't make grapes, you can't make wine. That was the first thing. Second, tastes began to change. Sales of Camelot Mead began to drop off. we had to take a step back, look at the company as a whole, figure out how or even if Oliver Winery was going to continue forward. So it was about that time, Professor Oliver's son, Bill Oliver, joined the company. He's CEO to this day. And he wanted to revitalize things by focusing on three aspects of the company. So first and foremost was customer service and experience. So that's my bright smiling face, howdy. And experience in the 70s, the bar was set real low. We pulled all the weeds out of the parking lot, we cut a wine barrel in half, and we stuck some plants in it. If you have spent any time at all in our grounds, you can see we've expanded on this concept. We've dug out our ponds, we've added our limestone sculptures and our waterfalls. We wanted to make this a beautiful place where people would want to come spend a day as opposed to a liquor store on the side of the highway. So we truly thank you guys very sincerely for being with us here. Second, we wanted to have a philosophy of winemaking, which sounds very complex, but it boils down to this. You cannot make good wine from bad fruit. So it's our job to partner with growers that grow great fruit and bring it here for our winemaking. So we partner with growers in California, in Oregon, in Washington, in the Great Lakes region. We buy those grapes, we bring them here, we turn them into wine. Third, we wanted to reestablish our own vineyards. So we plowed up the fields that had gone fallow, we purchased additional adjacent acreage, and that's Creek Bend Vineyard. So quick aside about the vineyard for a few moments. Why is it called Creek Bend? Well, Bean Blossom Creek surrounds it on three sides. Why does it have a spearhead for the logo? It used to be a Native American hunting ground. And from time to time as we're tilling the soil, we will pull up spearheads. We actually have a small collection against the back wall of the tasting room. Many, many more out of the vineyard. Creek Bend is a fantastic spot for growing grapes here in Indiana. What do I mean by that? I'm going to throw some jargon at you, but I'll explain it here in just a second. Creek Bend is unglaciated soil. It sits on top of limestone bedrock. It's shaped in gently sloping hills, and it has a creek at the foot. And what that translates into in English is that we don't have to worry about a lot of the things that other Midwestern vineyards have to worry about. The two big ones are flooding and drought. So years where we get a very wet June, July, August, we get a lot of rain. This is flat land, corn land. The water would flood the fields, it would build up, and it would rot the vines. It'd be terrible for us. But limestone bedrock drains away very quickly. And everything the bedrock can't drain away, the gently sloping hills, it puts it in the creek. We don't have to worry about it. Again, irrigation during really hot, dry summers, not usually a problem, but if we should need to, we irrigate at the top of the hills, it runs down the valleys, it hits every vine between us and the creek. It's fantastic. That combined with Indiana's really nice hot summers allows us to ripen very difficult fruit. That combined with our position high up in the Bean Blossom Valley protects us from frost in early spring, late fall. We've got some great cross currents of wind. It is truly a very nice spot for growing grapes here in Indiana. And I encourage you guys, if you're local or not too far away, come by and see us. We open it up a couple times throughout the summer and early fall. We do things like Cork and Fork and our Harvest Festival. There's bands, there's barbecue. Occasionally, Bill will get out his hot air balloon and skin the crowd and scare the hell out of everybody. It's a good time. Come on. He's kind of like Willy Wonka. So anyway, that's enough about the vineyard. We're going to go back to the 1970s now. So, or 1980s. So Professor Oliver's son, Bill, joins the company. He put those three things in place. Lo and behold, we started doing better. More people started coming to see us. We came up with a few wines during the late 80s, early 90s. Soft red, soft white, soft rosé. People love them. They're still on our tasting room menu. More people are coming to see us. So many more, in fact, that we realized by 1995, 1996, we were outgrowing that original tasting room out there. So we built the one behind you in 1997 using all Indiana timber and traditional post and joinery and construction, and we're doing better and more people were coming to see us. But about 1999, we had a problem. We were doing too well. We were making too much wine. That original small winery act I told you had a cap on it, 100,000 gallons of wine a year. We were rapidly closing in on that number, so we wrote a new law. We wrote the Indiana Farm Winery Act. This allowed for the production of 500,000 gallons of wine a year and the production of fortified wine. So that's wine with additional alcohol added. We have a couple in there if you're interested. So that law passed, and we increased our production facility. We built 2 additional buildings on the back lot of the property. Take a look at them if you go out on the patio. The one in the middle is called P2. The one straight back is called P3. P2 houses our high-speed bottling line. It's one of the largest bottling lines you'll find off the coast of the United States or outside of Europe. They can bottle 3,800 cases of wine a day. A case of wine is 12 bottles. It's a lot of wine every 24 hours. So we're not limited by how fast we can put it in the bottle. We're limited by how much we can actually make. So P3 is filled top to bottom with stainless steel fermentation tanks that make these look like thimbles. There are 3 standing between the buildings outside. We actually built those 3 ourselves because they're larger than anything you can buy commercially. Each one of those 3 tanks can hold over 92,000 gallons of wine. When I say we're the largest winery in the state, I'm going to give you some numbers, put that in a little bit of perspective. If you took the annual wine production of every other winery in this state, and I think right now there's about 60, 70, 80, somewhere in there, you would not fill those 3 tanks. You would not fill 2 of those 3 tanks. You fill about 1 1/3. We're the largest producer in the state by far. So, get all this extra wine during the early 2000s. Well, instead of just holding a big party, we started sending it places. We used to work very, very diligently on our distribution network during the early 2000s. At this point, we're around about 22, 25 states, 3 foreign countries. We're not talking Canada and Mexico. We're in China, Indonesia, and Korea, believe it or not, due largely to international IU students who love our wine, won't be able to buy it at home. So if you take a vacation and find yourselves over there, look us up. And while we're doing very, very well and sending a lot of our wines to a lot of interesting places, and a lot of people are coming to know it and love it, about 2008, we had a problem. We were doing too well. We were making too much wine. Does anybody want to guess what we did? We did. SB107 doesn't have a fun little name. I really wish it did. It would kind of give my tour a nice narrative symmetry. But it allows for a production of 1 million gallons of wine a year. That's the law we operate under today. That's the number we hit just about every year. So, watch the wine laws. We might have a 4th one coming soon. Now, I don't tell you about the laws because they're interesting. They're not. Trust me, I've read them. But I do think it is interesting. And the reason I mention it is I think it's kind of neat. We went from a guy's basement hobby to one of the top 5 wineries east of Mississippi in about 40 years. Anybody have any questions about the history of this? Alrighty. Well, we're going to go this way. Alrighty. So, this is our small tank room. Why do we call it that? Tanks are smaller, we're not a super creative bunch of folk. What do we use this room for? Small batch and experimental batches of wine. So let's talk about that. What do we mean by small batch? Creek Bend Vineyard, great as it is for growing grapes in Indiana, is not by any stretch of the imagination considered a high yield vineyard, and just cannot compete with the tonnage of grapes that we purchase from outside sources. And even if we devoted every growable inch out there to growing one type of grape, let's say Cabernet Sauvignon, we're still not going to need a 30 or a 90,000 gallon size tank. It just makes sense to do those wines on this scale. Additionally, experimental batches. Has anybody done tasting as a go? Did you guys taste our pilot project for Cherry Moscato? Yeah, it's fine if you did. It is a pilot project. We did them as an experiment originally. We did a cherry Moscato, a blueberry Moscato, and a blackberry cider. We wanted to see if we could do them. We wanted to see if we could do them well. We wanted to see if people liked them. When we did them originally, we did them on this scale. We're looking at about 200 cases. When we looked at the numbers, saw that, wow, the Moscato has really won out. We decided to do a mass production one of those. And we went from 200 cases in this room to 2,000 cases in that room. Kind of gives you a sense of scale. Behind me, I apologize for the darkness, but I figure it's better than the ego for a light switch. You can see some barrels. Those are real barrels. They're filled with real wine. They are cellaring. That fan that you can hear is part of our climate control system. Keeps the temperature and humidity here right for the wine inside the barrels. If the small number of boxes that you can see don't look sufficient for what I've described to as 1 million gallons of wine a year, you are absolutely correct. We use this room for stocking our main tasting room as well as meeting our direct internet ordering needs. We have 2 additional warehouses in Bloomington for our distribution network, as well as one attached to our bottling line, where I promise there's more wine than you've ever seen in your life. Any questions about this one? How much is the is full? 265 liters. The average bottle of wine is 750 milliliters, so you're talking about 353 bottles per barrel with a little bit left over. Good question. All right. We're going to go back there and we're going to talk about how we actually make our wines. So all our wines, whether they say Oliver or whether they say Creek Bend, they come through this room. And your first stop is actually that machine way down there we were just standing next to, which we're not going to come on. I'm not going to let We're going back that way. The first stop is that machine down there. I'm not going to make us run back over there because we're going to be talking about this machine right next. That is called a destemmer crusher. Does anybody want to guess what it does? Yes?
Does crush the grapes?
It does crush the grapes. Somebody get that man a glass of water. No, it de-stems and crushes the grapes. Why do we take the stems off? They don't taste good. We don't want them in the wine. Pretty simple there. But crush, let's break that word down. Crush is a little bit of a grandiose term, in my opinion, for the way that machine works. How it works, there's a hopper at the bottom. We put the grapes in there. The elevator pulls them up in correctly portioned amounts and dumps them into that orange bit up top. Inside there, we have a series of augers and rollers of different sizes, and it knocks the grape around a little bit and removes something called MAW, which is an acronym for material other than grapes. This is anything picked up during harvest that is not a ripe, juicy, usable wine grape. So this includes unripe wine grapes. They tend to be small, hard, bitter. Overripe wine grapes. They tend to be big, soft, mushy. They burst, they're rotten. Sticks, leaves, rocks, dirt. Anything that was picked up during harvest that is not a good, juicy, usable wine grape all gets kicked out one side with the stems. The good wine grape rolls around a little bit, drops into that orange box you see underneath. That is a centrifuge. It spins the grape with just enough force against its wall to split the skin open, and from there, we can go one of two directions with our grapes, depending on what style of wine we're going to make. We're going to start by talking about white wine, then we're going to go back, we'll do it all over again for red. After the white wine grapes leave the de-stemmer crusher, this is their next stop. This is our Wilms bladder press. So we don't do the I Love Lucy stomping on the grapes thing anymore. I mean, at staff parties, but nobody's drinking that. The way this works, think of it like a Ziploc bag inside a soup can. We put the grapes inside the bag, we put this grating up on here, and then we put air pressure in between the walls of the can and the bag, and we press very, very gently on our grapes. Why do we press gently? Well, because every time you're harsh with a wine grape, you can break a skin, you can break a seed. These impart very bitter, very astringent flavors to the wine. If you climb inside this machine, feel like a very nice massage. Do not do that, young man. Right, good. So, the machine rotates, we press very gently, the juice runs out through the grating, but take a look at the size of the holes on the grating. They're fairly large. We're going to have stuff floating in the juice that we don't want. Bits of skin and seed and pulp and flesh. And we're about minimal steps here. Because every time you introduce a new step in winemaking, whether that's a pump, a hose, a filter, a centrifuge, every step includes a risk that you can ruin the wine. There's a chance the pump wasn't cleaned well enough, the hose wasn't hooked up well enough, that it could leak, that oxygen could get in. So how do we get all of that stuff floating in the juice out without introducing all these extra steps? Well, we take the juice with everything floating in it, we put it in a clean tank, and we chill it down between 25 and 35 degrees. There is no fermentation happening. And we just let it sit for 3 to 5 days. This is called gravity settling. Because over that 3 to 5 days, gravity pulls the solids to the bottom of the tank. And on every tank, we have 2 valves. One at the very bottom, one a little bit further up. The solids fall between them. We can open up that top valve and pull clean juice off. This is called racking. We'll rack the clean juice to a clean tank. We add our yeast and our nutrients. And now we're ready to make wine. So, let's come this way. And just to give you an idea on these bigger tanks, this is the bottom valve, this is the top valve, solids fall here, we open up that top valve, we can rack the clean juice. So, turning juice into wine results in 3 byproducts that we want to control during the winemaking process. Alcohol, CO2, carbon dioxide, and heat. And so, let's talk about how we manage this. Start with the fun one, alcohol. We are actually less concerned with the alcohol content of our wines and more concerned with the sugar content. Because sugar, through fermentation, becomes alcohol. So let's say we want a wine with no sugar left. We're just going to let the yeast do their thing. They're going to eat and 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 eat. Eventually they eat all the sugar and they die because they don't have any food left. And you're left with what's called a bone-dry wine, which is a very scary term. But it just means chemically there's no sugar left in the liquid. But lots of people like sweet wine. Let's say we want to keep some sugar in it. How do we do that? Well, we can chill the tank down. Yeast need to be warm to be active, so if you chill it down enough, the yeast die. And depending on what point in the fermentation cycle you do that, you can control different levels of sweetness. So that's one way we do it. We can forcibly remove the yeast using a centrifuge. We'll do that on occasion. Or in the case of our fortified wines, we add more alcohol. Yeast don't actually like alcohol. It's a waste product for them. So if you add enough, the yeast die, and you can pull off a wine that has both high sugar, because the yeast hasn't fermented at all, and high alcohol, because we put it there. So that's how we manage that. Next byproduct, CO2, carbon dioxide, bubbles. There is a natural, it's a natural byproduct of fermentation, but we have a little gasket on the top of all of these tanks that allows CO2 to escape, but prevents oxygen from returning. This is very, very important. Anybody ever left a bottle of wine open on your counter for just a day too long? Pour yourself a glass of wine, tastes like somebody stuck some pennies in it when we weren't looking. It's oxidation. If you get a nick on the fender of your car, oxygen will rust your car. Oxygen will rust wine. You lose bright fruit flavors and aromas. So it's very important. If we're going to let the CO2 escape, we cannot have a return path for oxygen to come in contact with the wine. I said if, though, because in the case of our Moscatos and our ciders, we actually cap that gasket. We keep the liquid cooler during fermentation, and it forces the CO2 to dissolve back in. And it gives those wines a little bit of a natural spritz. We get the bubble in our bubble craft, the bubble in our sparkling wine, two other processes. If you're interested, hang around after the tour. I will tell you everything you never want to know about champagne, but that's how we get it in the Moscatos and the ciders. Last byproduct, arguably most important, is heat. Because on this scale, uncontrolled fermentation can very easily and very quickly exceed temperatures of 100 degrees. And we do not want that. Why? Same reason if you're at home making something great on the stove and the whole house smells fantastic. Well, that's wonderful. But once those smells are in the air, they are not in the wine. And we cannot put them back. So think of these tanks like big thermoses. In between the walls in these dimpled areas, we have a cooling jacket, and we run a substance through there called propylene glycol. Looks like antifreeze. Allows us to be very, very accurate with the thermal control of these tanks to within about 1/10 of a degree. So we're going to let white wines peak in the 70s. We're going to bring back down to the 60s and high 50s. This cooler fermentation, again, protects those very delicate fruit flavors and aromas. Now at this point, we've controlled these three variables. We have wine. We do one additional step to it. And I'm going to show you what that is. There is a naturally occurring chemical in wine. Can I set around? I trust it. Naturally occurring chemical in wine called potassium bitartrate that we elect to remove. It is far more commonly known as cream of tartar. If you go to the grocery store and buy yourself a vial of cream of tartar to make a lemon meringue pie or some cookies around the holidays, you are buying the cheapest bottle of Napa or Sonoma you will ever buy in your life, because that is usually where it's coming from in the United States. We don't sell ours. There's no point in trying to compete with those guys. This is a flavorless crystal that falls out of wine when two things happen. If it sits alone for a long time, or if it gets cold. So let's talk for a second how people interact with bottles of wine. If you buy a nice bottle of dry red wine that you're saving for a special occasion that's coming along God knows when, could be tomorrow, could be 15 years from now, you lay it on its side in a cool, dark place. That's cold, and that's time, and it causes that crystal to fall out of the wine. If you buy a bottle of white wine, most people don't hang on to it for years and years and years, but what do most people do before they serve it? Stick it in the fridge. Not very long, very, very cold. And it causes that crystal to fall out of the wine. And while I said it's flavorless, which is, it leads to a cloudy, murky, muddy-looking wine, and a gritty mouthfeel like you have sand in your glass, and generally a pretty unpleasant experience if you've never gotten to try it. So since we can remove it by chilling the tank down between 25 and 35 degrees, again, this crystal falls out, collects at the bottom. We can then open up that top valve, rack a wine off the top that we're confident is not going to turn to sludge in your fridge or in your wine racks. From there, we take it to the bottling line, we put it in the bottle, slap a label on it, into the trucks, into the stores, and hopefully into your homes. So that's white wine. We're going to do it all over again for red, and I promise you it will not take as long. All right? Set these down. So, red wine. It starts in the same place with our destemmer crusher, but remember, we said after that we can go one of two directions. We're not going to go to the press with these grapes. We're going to go right into a tank, because we want red wine grapes to ferment in contact with their skins. And the reason for this is a word called tannin, which is a word I'm fairly confident most of you have heard in the context of wine, but I would also bet that no one has ever defined for you. So I'm going to give you my best attempt. Tannin is the name of a short-chain molecule that is found in the skins of red wine grapes. It does three main things. First, it provides a nice, deep, dark red color. Second, it provides a preservative effect. This is why red wine ages so much longer than white wine. Third, it provides an astringent mouthfeel. So in a young red wine, it feels like you have a cotton ball in your mouth. In an older red wine, it feels like a nice piece of silk or velvet in your mouth. All three of these things are tannin, and it comes from the skins. Now, we're also going to let this ferment warmer, because warmth allows us to extract that tannin more effectively. Not uncontrolled, though. We're not going to let this tank hit 100 degrees. We're going to let it peak in the low 90s. We're going to bring it back down to the 80s and high 70s to about 60% of its fermentation. This kind of strikes a balance between cold fermentation to protect the flavors, warm fermentation to extract the tannins. We also said that carbon dioxide was going to be produced. Same thing is happening here, and it actually lifts that cap of skins to the top of the tank. We don't want that. We want to interact with the whole volume of liquid in the tank, so we're going to hook up a pump from the bottom to the top and spray that cap down 3 times a day using something called a whirligig, which is just my favorite word of the tour. And the cap sinks. That's called pump over. Come back here in August. This room smells fantastic. We're doing that. So 60% of the fermentation is done warm, in contact with the skins, pump over happening 3 times a day. Now we're ready to go to the press. We remove the bulk of the solids floating in the wine in progress, but the size of the holes on that machine have not changed, so we're going to need to go back to a tank for gravity settling. 3 to 5 days later, we're going to rack the wine in progress either to a clean steel tank or to oak barrels to finish the fermentation, depending on what the winemaker's after. After that, back to the tank for cold stabilization to remove the potassium tartrate, and then off to the bottling line, again, possibly with a stopover in barrels, depending on what we're making. See, I told you, it doesn't take nearly as long to talk about red wine as those white wine. Any questions about the nuts and bolts of it before we go talk about barrels? So yeah, just grab some grapes and try it. Let's go. If you are very sensitive to temperature, you're going to notice a change from this room to this room. You guys just fill it along the path here for me, if you don't mind. So that temperature change is actually because this room is underground. You're about 3 feet underneath where the waterfall begins outside, just to give you a good map of the area in mind. So this is the cellar we built in 1973. It is one of the oldest parts of the winery that we still use on a daily basis. Why do we put wine in barrels? The most obvious reason is taste. The inside of these barrels are toasted, not charred like a bourbon barrel. We're not after that black ash that the whiskey guys are. We're after a nice impatient golden brown caramelization of the sugars inside the oak. Think the difference between somebody sticking a marshmallow in a campfire and pulling it out of a black movie mess, or something nice and patiently rotating and getting that golden brown caramelization on the outside. That's what we're after. And that caramelized sugar in the oak imparts flavor to the wine along lines of brown sugar, vanilla, almonds, and spice, and very tasty things. But here is the catch. Only new barrels that we have not used for wine impart any flavor at all to our wines. And in our heaviest oak vintages, we only use about 30 to 40% new barrels. So then the question becomes, if the other 60 to 70% isn't making it taste good, why are we doing it? Well, now we're back to that word, tannin. And there we use steel because it prevents oxygen from interacting with the wine. Oak is just the opposite. It allows oxygen to reach walls at very predictable rates. And as the oxygen hits those short-chain tannin molecules, they go from being very small chain molecules that find all the crevices in your mouth and feel very drying. They form long chains that can't fit into those crevices, and so instead they lay on top. That's why it feels soft and smooth. It's not getting into all those like chocolate pores in the mouth. We also said oxygen, though, would oxidize it. The same thing is happening here, but very, very slowly. And as those molecules are changing and rearranging, they actually begin to look like other things you know. Things like chocolate, and coffee, tobacco, and leather, and pepper, and spice, and things that we are not putting in the barrel, but you recognize because the molecules actually look similar. We use 3 types of oak here at the winery. We use American, French, and Hungarian. The reason we use different types of oak has to do with different flavor profiles of the trees, the different tightnesses of the grain of those trees, resulting from the different climates in which they're grown, meaning a different speed of oxygen transfer, meaning a different speed of wine aging. There is someone around here, I'm very confident, that can tell you the flavors of the oak. I apologize, I am not that person. If you want to lick a barrel while I'm not looking, it's gross and it tastes like wood, but somebody does it over the weekend, so I'm not really very good. I've got 2 big barrels that's at the door here. They are real. They're called oak ovals. They're built here by a French cooper, Redoux, in 2012. Each One of them holds about 1,600 gallons of wine. What we put in varies. Why we put in them remains the same. It has a larger volume of wine to a smaller surface area, so the big barrels actually age wine more slowly than the little barrels. But whether it's in the big barrel or the little barrel, these neutral barrels, the barrels that are not imparting flavor, we're going to blend with new barrels across the vintage to achieve that consistent flavor. We get asked all the time, why don't we use 100% new oak? Well, frankly, it's because wine in 100% new oak has a tendency to taste like new oak. It tastes like a barrel. A bag of Kingsford charcoal. If you're interested, go get yourself one. They're great for barbecue, but we put a lot of effort into our grapes, so we want you to taste them. That's why we do that blending. Common questions we get about barrels. We already hit on one, just how much wine is inside one of these, about 353 bottles per barrel. Other common questions we get, what's with the handwritten numbers on front? Well, that's our labeling system. The first number indicates the year we purchased the barrel. The second number indicates the number of that barrel in that year. So this one would be the 74th barrel in the year 2009. Up there, that would be the 19th barrel in the year 2011. We are an agricultural product. Our last harvest was 2016. If you see a barrel up here that starts with a 16, that's a new barrel. That's a barrel that's imparting flavor. It's a barrel that hasn't been used before. You see a barrel up here that's from 2009. Yeah, we don't have anything that sits in a barrel for 8 years. That's a barrel that's being reused. We reuse our barrels as much as we can, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Ultimately, we do need to get rid of them though. They gross, they leak, they develop all kinds of other little funky characteristics that make them unusable. So we do eventually have to get rid of them and renew those. We already talked about the oak that we have. Other common questions we get, how much do they weigh? A lot. These forklifts, they're talking 800-900 pounds a piece when full. The last most common question we get is, will we sell you one of our used barrels? No, I'm sorry, we will not. We reuse our barrels, like you said, and trust me when I tell you that when it gets to a point where we can no longer use it, you do not want it sitting in your house as an empty. If you really have your heart set on a barrel, go down to bourbon country. By law, bourbon barrels can only be used one time. They will very happily try to charge you $500 for a hunk of wood that smells like whiskey that they can't use anymore. So try to talk them down. But sorry if you had your votes out today.